I don't know. I hope so.
We're live, babies.
We're live. All right. It's weird because when you're doing this StreamYard thing, when you're on Instagram, like it feels like an event happens, but when you're doing it through StreamYard, like nothing changes. So the difference between being live and not being live does not feel like anything has changed.
Doesn't feel super substantial, hey?
Yeah. when you're on it, Instagram live or something, like, the comments start coming in like in real time and the hearts start coming up and you're like, oh yeah, wow, something's happening. And StreamYard is just like,
Oh,
hi there. Daddy-o.
Hey. Ladies and gentlemen, the Father Landreth.
Oh. So how come you guys can see that and I can't?
Dave,
oh, man.
Sorry,
guys.
Puts it from all four. Murray, there's on the right-hand side of your screen, there's a chat, and there's two tabs. One's private chat.
Oh, okay. Comments?
Comments, yeah, and then you'll see.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Sorry, guys. I need to reconnect the Bros Facebook page. I'm having some problems here. Give me just a second.
Oh, sweat.
Classic.
It makes me so sweaty.
Nate,
feeling.
Mark, man, now you know how I felt this morning when I did the Zoom chat room and none of the audio was working. I was just like, 25 people in the chat room was like, oh God, oh God, oh God.
Wow. So everybody, good New Year's Eve. Joe, what'd you do?
Man, I played Spider-Man on my PS4.
You got it.
I wanted a PS5, but I just couldn't find one. And a bunch of my friends said, honestly, PS5 is awesome, but PS4 will get you there. I got a PS4, and I've been playing Spider-Man, and my brain is real melty, boys.
Amazing.
Alex, the road in the house. Alex, the builder of my beloved Goldie.
Oh yes. Oh man.
We got a couple other cool things in the works right now. Hey everybody, thanks for coming in. Nate and Bismarck. Steve.
Yeah, sorry y'all. I'm just trying to get us happening on oh, there we go. We're good.
Steve. Hey Steve, how are you, man? Great to see you on here. Happy New Year. All the best. Good afternoon from Georgia. How many folks we got in the room there, Dave?
We're creeping up on 100 people.
Whoa.
I'm having some trouble with the Facebook one. So excuse me while I sort that out. I can see it, but I don't know that anybody else can.
Frankfurt.
Right.
Hello,
Frankfurt.
Hello from old Transcona. Oh no, living in Toronto. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Hi, neighbor.
I've never done one of these, so this is very bizarre to me.
You've never done one of these? Oh man, it's super fun.
Yeah, it's pretty chill. No pressure. No pressure.
I feel none.
Okay, I'm gonna try one more time. Remove. We'll see if I have any luck here.
Yeah. Happy New Year, everybody that we got in here. Dave's just doing a little. He's doing a little tech. He's doing a little IT servicing. Hello, Olivier from France. Comment ça va, Olivier? Ça va? Jen Dirksen in the house. What's up?
Oh, for shame. Well, I can't seem to get it going on the Bros Facebook, and that is really unfortunate. You know what? You guys start without me for 2 seconds, and I'm going to see if I can get this rolling.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Joe and Dave here from the Brothers Landreth. We are doing something different this week. We have our dear pal, Murray Pulver, who, if you're not familiar with Murray, he produced our first record, Let It Lie. He produced my first solo record, Whiskey. He produced 87. He is producing our new record. Murray and I have done tons and tons and tons of recording over the years together on a lot of the other projects that he's worked on. But most importantly, Murray is our dear friend and one of my serious guitar heroes. And so to give you a little backup, who Murray is that when I was 15 and I started kind of hanging around the music scene, the first time I heard about you, Murray, was through Paul Yee, who's also a dear friend of ours and has also collaborated with us on a lot of records as an engineer, and he played live as a bass player. And I remember like being this kind of like, wet behind the ears, young guitar player hanging out at Sled Dog Music in Wolseley.
Sled Dog, wow.
And Paul was just kind of like introducing me to all the local guitar players. Like, have you heard Damon Mitchell? Of course I did, because Damon played in my dad's band. And
Pat Wright, probably, like
Lowe and Pat Wright. And then of course, have you ever heard Murray Pulver? And I hadn't. And so Murray is in a band called Ego Spank. And I was they were just like the sort of some of the city's finest local players. And they had this sort of like, I don't know, what do you call it? Like kind of fusion, but also like,
confusion. Yeah.
Confusion of local heroes. Gilles Fournier on bass, Daniel Roy on drums, Mark Arnold on keys, and Murray on guitar. And hey, Pepper, David's just working on some tech stuff. So that's why he's stuck sideways.
There he is.
And you guys had Ego Spank had a resident gig every Tuesday. I think it was Tuesdays, right?
Tuesdays, Finn McHugh's.
Tuesdays at Finn McHugh's above in the Johnson Terminal at the Forks. And the second that I was old enough, the second I turned 18, that's what I did. I turned 18 and I went to see Ego Spank. And I was there every Tuesday watching you play guitar. And you were legendary. Like, I don't think you understand. Like me,
Ego, man. Holy
Ariel Posen, Darren Savard, Stephen Arundel. Like me and Steve had the same shoes you had. Like I went out and bought. I went out and bought a pair of those Adidas that you had. And I was like, shit, if I'm gonna be I gotta.
Oh my god,
Adidas.
This is good for my ego. This is very funny, man. I look back at those days super fondly. Like, I looked forward to playing every Tuesday night and seeing everybody. And there's just magical about those nights, because there was just this freedom within the band, and the audience the audience was willing to hear anything we did, which I think brought out a lot of killer moments and some rather hilarious moments too, where we fall on our face.
I think that was like, for me as a musician, watching you guys who were such heavyweights on the scene, like known around town as the consummate professionals, have this gig where you just played for the sake of playing was really it was really like pivotal for me. Like, is that a word? It was really important for me as an up and coming musician to watch seasoned veterans play. Like, I don't mean like play, but I mean like literally play like kids. Like, you guys were off. You played like ridiculous covers. You reharmonized them completely. There's like tunes and odd time signatures, and it was so joyful. And I think actually, even in hindsight now, I think going and seeing you guys play was more shaping on me as a musician than a lot of things. Like, it was really valuable. It was
so amazing to hear. Like, I feel like that's what music is to me, is just about that freedom to be in the moment, and like, I mean, it's hard to get to that point sometimes when you're making music, and sometimes you take it too seriously. But if you can always just sort of maintain that inner child when you're making music, I mean, that to me is electrifying, and what gets you excited about it. And to me, still the best moments in music are when those accidents happen, and you're like, oh man, this is amazing.
Yeah,
that's what those nights were like for me. And man, that's nice to hear, Joe.
Yeah, you guys were so fluid. And then going on after that, I think you got me my first like actual gig.
Sorry.
With Johnny Cage. No, oh my God.
Oh, Johnny Cage, you're good. Okay, good.
Yeah, that was amazing. And I was actually 17. I wasn't even 18 yet. So in Manitoba, the legal drinking age is 18. So you can't legally play in bars before you're 18. Not, I mean, there's ways around it, but
yeah.
So I was 17, and it was like the day that I graduated high school. I was my first gig.
No way.
Graduated high school, like
on the road.
And then went out on the road and played the Bear Claw Casino in Carlisle, Saskatchewan with Johnny Cage. That was my first.
That's amazing.
And that was the first of many gigs that you shared with me. And that's kind of the spirit of Murray, is that you are incredibly generous with your time and your resources and your knowledge, and you're very I felt very mentored by you, and still do to this day. So okay, I want to like, because I know who you are, but a lot of these people don't.
Right.
What it like? Was there a moment as a kid when you knew that you wanted to pursue music, and if there was a singular moment, what was it?
I'd say, yeah, it's going to date me, but that's okay. I'm comfortable with my age now. So actually, I think I was about 8 years old, and I saw, for some reason, Cheap Trick live at Budokan came on TV. And there was something like, they started their night with this, "Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Hello there, ladies and gents. Are you ready to rock?" And I was just like, what is happening? Like, this geeky looking guitar player and drummer with two rockers singing and playing bass. And it just, like, the energy, and like, it was live at Budokan, tons of Japanese fans are just losing their minds over this rock band. And to this day, Cheap Trick, still does it for me. They have this energy. And if you see them live to this day, they're unbelievable. But it was really that excitement that got me into music. And my parents, started a band when my dad started a band when he was 40. He was like, he couldn't play a single instrument, had no clue. It's kind of a funny story. He didn't tell my mom that he went out and bought a PA system and a drum kit. At 40 years old, and she comes home from work, and he goes, he was from Berlin, very funny guy. And he goes, "We're starting a band. You're going to sing. I'm going to play drums, and we're going to hire people and play music for people." And they did that for probably about the next 15 years. And man, just having band rehearsals in the basement all the time, hearing music in the house, not all of it was great music. I grew up on a lot of kind of crap music, but at the same time, the spirit and the joy that was in music was always in my house. And so that's kind of like, it just sort of carried on. My dad was they were both just lovers of music. But I got to say, the Cheap Trick thing kind of changed my life.
That's wild.
And I didn't see from that moment, I didn't see any other way of being. It was just had to be music.
There's something about, and I think Dave can probably would agree with this, but the sound of a band rehearsal coming through the floor, because our bedrooms when we were growing up were in the basement, and our dad would rehearse his band in the living room.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even remember how old I was. I must have been 5 or less.
Yeah,
we have distinct memories of how it sounded to hear, like, a tiny drum kit being played in the living room, or an electric guitar plugged in. It just magical,
man.
Sound.
I had one of those rehearsals with your dad. Where you guys
no way.
There, yeah.
And
I didn't last on your dad's band though, in his project. I think he got rid of me pretty quick.
Come on, you didn't learn any of the songs, did you?
Yeah, that's probably it.
Too many chords.
Dad's in the chat.
Yeah.
Dad's watching on YouTube. So Dad, throw it in the comments. Let us know why you gave Murray the boot.
No, I think it just didn't come to fruition. We had grand designs, but it just didn't happen.
Right. So was there like an element, because like in my mind, when I think of Murray Pulver, I mean, obviously you are many things to me, but I definitely like see you as a guitar player in my head. So is there something was there something in Cheap Trick that drew you to the guitar, or was that something different? Did the love for the guitar come later, or what is it like?
Yeah, well, you know what? I actually started on drums, and but then for me as a little kid, it was like, wait a second, Elvis didn't play the drums. Like, and so I was like, I'm picking up the guitar. And to be honest, I really didn't like it. I didn't like practicing it, and I didn't like, I really always had a bit of a battle with guitar. And then just like my mom she taught a choir. It just became a thing of necessity. She wanted me to be involved. So I learned the chords, backed up the choir. You know, it was just kind of this thing that just sort of morphed, and guitar was just my way of, I guess, playing music with other people. And you know, and then, you know, as a teenager, you start, you know, I grew up in the 80s with, you know, metal guitar. So at that time I could actually kind of shred. And I wish I still had some of those chops, but like I had no clue what I was doing, just using the ear and just going for it. Right. But I think in the teenage years, definitely is when I got the serious guitar bug, you know, and then ended up going to school for it, like for 2 years, and really sort of immersed myself. And then kind of had a love-hate relationship with it, maybe since.
Right.
You know,
the ongoing battle.
Yeah. But I mean, for me, I think mostly these days, it's more of a way of that I'm able to communicate with other people. Like when I'm working in a band situation or production or whatever, I feel like I'm, you know, my guitar years, I rely on experience or the same old licks. No, but you kind of rely on musicality a little more these days than I like to admit. But
right. Yeah. What else did I want to ask you about? This is something that I mean, and I also know that some of the folks in here may be more familiar with your production chops than your guitar chops, but you as a guitar player are you kind of exist in a bit of a vacuum for me, like sort of conceptually. Like when I hear you're playing, I can hear all these different influences, like style wise. Like you're obviously very like you have such great harmonic sense and melodic sense, and you're super adventurous in your ideas, and your tones are killer. But I can't ever be like Stevie Ray Vaughan, John Scofield, and you know, Jim Hall. You know,
right.
Like, I can't really put my finger on any one thing. Like, so I guess like, and for me, like my big influences were Stevie Ray Vaughan, Mike Landau, and Robin Ford, and those were guitar players that I studied like as religiously as I could. But I can never pinpoint that guitar player in your playing. So is there a guitar player that you were like, this music connects with me, or was it just music in general that lit you up? Like what? And I guess the question is, like, is guitar just your like the instrument on which you're fluent, or you know, like where does that
I would say that, you know, through life there were guitar players that made an impact on me, but I don't know, I just, for some reason, I never went and learned their licks. Like I love Stevie Ray Vaughan, but I don't know, I just felt like, well, I'll never be that good. Shit, I like, you know, forget it. And I loved, you know, Eddie Van Halen, you know, but I loved his rhythm playing, and I would learn that more than the solos. And I would learn. I think it's like I had, you know, little short infatuations with certain guitar players, but I never would dive into them like I think I probably should have. I kind of always just took info from it, I think, and then just always thought, well, it should just be about having your own voice, you know, and figuring that out. But so I think it became more of like, so one of my favorite guitar players might be like Daniel Lanois, but not known as a shred, you know, guitar player or somebody who's a guitar influence. But to me, I think that just the musicality in what he plays and the notes when they happen. Just like I loved impact, like when somebody like he plays the song. What is this song? It's on For the Beauty of Winona, but like there's almost no guitar, and then he comes in with this insane tone and what he plays, and it's just like the impact of that just is what got to me and spoke to me. So I don't know, like I don't know if I've answered any part of your question.
No,
other than go ahead, Dave.
No.
Other than like I think I've taken lots of things that I love about guitar players, but also I love watching drummers and piano players that have like lots of personality and lots of they take chances, and I feel like that's something I always like to do. And it's not always that you don't always get those opportunities in playing, but because different situations call for different things. If you're playing in a band like a country band like I used to, Doc Walker, it would be very much about playing the parts, each night, and I kind of just wanted those to be important, and the solos and stuff were always kind of like, yeah, whatever. I just want the part to be good and the band to sound consistent. And but don't get me wrong, I do love like kick-ass guitar playing, and I just feel like for me it was never from one player or another. It was just always like all the music taken in. Unfortunately, I listened to a lot of ABBA as a kid because that's what my parents listened to. So for that, like,
unfortunately,
yeah. Well, I actually think fortunately, because there's some pretty amazing songwriting going on.
I have to be careful not to yell. My kid's sleeping in the next room.
Hey, I'll be quieter too.
Anyway,
so I don't know if I answered your question there, but
absolutely.
No, I think so. I think beautifully.
And I think that's like the fact that you're saying like you were a massive Van Halen fan, but the stuff that you transcribed wasn't necessarily like the crazy theatrics, but the rhythm, and like you can hear that in your playing because like your pocket is so killer as a rhythm player.
Oh man.
I mean, I love the way you improvise and come up with things, but when you play rhythm guitar, it's like it is impactful as well. You don't have a guitar handy, do you, Murray? Are you plugged in?
I'm not plugged in, but I got guitars here.
You mentioned something about like coming up with the right parts, and so what some folks also might not know is that one of my big gigs that I got as a sideman was after you left Doc Walker. I took over for a couple of years and I played in that band, and I had to learn all of your parts.
Oh yeah.
And that was such a massive education. And there is a version you guys do of That's All.
Oh yeah, right.
Do you remember
Yeah, I'll plug in
that rhythm part, because it's not the rhythm part from the original recording, I don't think.
No, so I tried to. Yeah, our producer at the time was this guy, is a guy named Justin Niebank, and he was like unbelievable, great ideas. And so his wife actually was driving with him, and That's All by Genesis came on the radio, and she goes, "Oh, that band from Canada? They do a cool version of this. I think that'd be cool." So he suggested it to us, and I was like, how are we gonna do this? So I kind of listened to all the keyboard parts and all that, and kind of wanted it to be a bit greasy, and wanted it to be. Justin wanted me to play it on this Epiphone John Lennon acoustic kind of thing.
Yeah.
So can you guys hear that? I'll try. Something like that?
Yeah.
It's pretty loud, probably.
No, it sounds great. It sounds glorious.
Something like that. So I don't know. It was just E minor and B minor, but I was like, how can I make, like, on the keyboards it was kind of this back and forthy. I can't even remember the original.
It's almost stride like.
Yeah.
obviously not out of context. It doesn't, but it kind of has that like bouncy left right hand thing, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was just like the challenge was like we got that. He said we're going to cut it tomorrow, so guys come up with something like, and so I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? So I kind of spent the night just working on some thoughts, and nervously played it for Justin the next day, and he was like, yeah, that's killer. This is the guitar you're going to play it on, and then the band kind of just sort of like we had some Nashville guys play drums and bass on that song, and everybody got into the groove, and yeah, that riff was kind of built, was built on that.
Well, there's another crazy rhythm guitar part in that set list. The chicken picking one with all like the weird flat fives and stuff. Yeah. Can you play that?
Yeah, it's a song. Yeah, I don't know. Those guys. That's when I first started playing, like just kind of working on playing on their record. And it's a band called Doc Walker, for those that don't know, Canadian country band. And we were going to record this record, and they had this song, and it was kind of, it was an F sharp minor, and it was like they were very willing to like go with whatever I sort of came up with. And the what are the chords? They were that was the groove.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was like, guys, what if we played something like really whacked and could double it on banjo? And it was like, I gotta remember
it. What a Murray part, if I've ever heard one.
Oh yeah.
That is just such a Murray Pulver guitar part, if I've ever heard one.
Yeah. And it had this like, I thought it was kind of cool that sneak in a minor 6 on a country song, or like a minor 7 flat 5.
Minor 13.
Yeah. I kind of played and thought it was against F sharp, so I was like, oh yeah, sneak that in. It'll never get anywhere. But it ended up being a single,
Easy.
Yeah. A7. Something like that.
I believe that I should stay.
Yeah. Believe that I won't go. Yeah.
So maybe maybe there's a chance to do a nice segue here from, because so our story starts really with us sort of growing up watching you play guitar with our jaws on the ground, but leads to you producing these records. So for you, like, we came up in a very similar fashion in that we were all side players first. Long before Joey and I started our own band, we were just working musicians in town, and that's all we'd ever aspired to be because that's what our dad was. Mm-hmm. So we were following in the family footsteps, and we wanted to be working musicians too.
Right.
My dad did have his band, but I think we just sort of self-styled ourselves as backing musicians. Mm-hmm. So for you were doing that. That was keeping you busy. I mean, you were on the road with. I
started playing with
Crash Test Dummies
when I was like 23.
And you go through a series of these gigs, but here you are at this other phase of your career where you're hardly traveling at all. Now you're making records. How do you go from being that guy to being this producer guy? How does that adventure unfold?
The age and the inability to travel anymore. It's basically, you know what? I guess it's just a gradual progression in the sense that, no matter what band I played in before Crash Test Dummies or whatever. I remember at one point I was in Winnipeg in 7 different original bands. My goal was always to play in original acts. I didn't want to play in the cover scene. I just wanted to create and create with other people. And so, and then I never played east of Kenora or west of Brandon. And then I went to London, England to play with the Dummies. And that was crazy. As a 23-year-old, I was just losing my mind. I didn't know how that came about. And we toured the world. I got to see parts of the world I never, ever would have imagined. I played South Africa, China, you know, all through North America, all through Europe, and it was an unbelievable opportunity, and then you know I did that for about 4 years, and then I had my daughter Katie was born, and I just felt like I really needed to slow down a little bit and find some other ways of you know making an income with music and just to connect with people again. I guess you know when I was with the Dummies, I always tried to maintain my local contacts and continue to make music with people whenever I was home, because I you know as amazing as it is to get to tour with great people and a great band like internationally known, there's nothing like playing at the Bella Vista or whatever in Winnipeg with some of your buds, and so I just always you know tried to maintain that, and being in certain bands and whatever, it just kind of led to production because you'd be at a rehearsal and I'd just keep throwing out ideas, and you know somebody would say, well, we want to record this, you know, do you want to produce it? And I'd be like, well, I don't know a thing about that, you know. What does that mean? If it means just throwing out ideas, okay, let's do it, you know. And so then I went and played, you know, with a girl named Amanda Stott for a few years, and then led to Doc Walker for 10 years, which was an amazing run, and got to write a lot of songs with them and work with some great producers and musicians, and we got to do a lot of things that we never expected, that's for sure. But it came to a point where I was just like, you know what, I've missed out on a lot of things at home, you know, and I just kind of felt like I'd missed out on a lot of birthdays and you know stuff with my kids, and I kind of it just got to a point where I felt like I was not doing myself any favors by being away anymore, and I really wasn't getting to do some of the work that I really wanted to do by being away. You know, it was just too tough to manage the two. And so it just kind of led to producing, and, you know, and producer means very many, means different things. There's so many different definitions of producer these days. And I think I'm a bit more old school in the sense that I just like being in the room with the band and trying to, you know, come up with who they are when in the room together. But to me, it's all just about I just needed to move on and pursue other things, and that producing was one of them. You know, sheesh, that was a long-winded answer.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
No, I mean, it's interesting because I think we're both on the cusp of sort of that same balancing act. It's a little different though. You know, when you're a side person in a band, you're at the mercy of the artists and their management and their record labels, and you go basically where you're told. And Joey and I did that for years.
Yeah.
Almost 10 years.
Right.
Each. And, you know, you're just, you know, your calendar is filled up for you, and you're either in or you're out, and that's the life. And it's one thing. And, you know, I think what we've discovered is that when you're at the helm and you are the artist and you're the one making those calls, you still feel a lot of that pressure. You know, there's a lot of people that want you to just tour indefinitely in the industry that just want to keep that machine rolling. But you know, now that we're sitting there with
2020 happened, it's like,
you know, then 2020 happened.
Whoa.
But I mean, even if, you know, I think that's been a great experience for all of us in a lot of ways, to learn just like what it feels like to actually slow down for a second, and what are the benefits of being grounded and rooted for a minute, and like perfectly timed for me because I had my boy in January,
right,
and then 3 months later we were about to go to work and start a year of touring, and that all got pulled, and instead I spent all year being a dad, and my God, that's been the best year I've ever had.
Yeah,
in a lot of regards, you know.
Right.
So
it's tough. I mean, I've always talked to you guys about this too, but for me, I always feel like it's about balance. But you know, if you can manage that balance somehow, try and figure out how to do that, you're winning.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a little bit easier when it's at the end of the day, when it's Dave and Joe that call the shots about which shows we do play and which tours we do take, and it's up to us to sort of set the benchmark for like what are we trying to do here? Do we want to be out on the road 200 days a year, or do we just want to make sure that we're living our best life and working, but not missing out on our families?
Yeah, exactly. Cool.
Yeah.
So there you are. You're off the road now with Doc Walker, and you've kind of found yourself at home, and you're starting to produce records, and then a couple of greasy Landreth kids slide up into your DMs. And
I actually remember making the call because Dave and I had written a bunch of songs, and Dave said, I think we can access a little bit of grant money from the government to make a record. Like, do we want to talk to a producer, and who do we do? It was like, well, if we talk to a producer, it's got to be Murray. And I remember calling you. I was in Calgary. I was on the road with One More Girl, and that was like, for me, the timeline, because I had taken over the Doc Walker gig from you.
Yeah.
And I was also playing with another sort of high profile country act called One More Girl at the time, and they kind of overlapped. And then as the Brothers Landers started to get busier and busier, then I just kind of very casually managed to get myself kind of fired from Doc Walker. Like I had to sub out of one or two gigs, and
I actually subbed them for you.
That's right, you did. And then I think it was like the third one, and Chris was like, so hey, listen, like, if you want to do this gig, you can totally do this gig, but if you can't really do the gig, then you can't really do the gig, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I get it. And then Dave Casey ended up taking over.
Oh yeah, right.
And
hey, but Thierry just bought us coffees. Thanks, Thierry.
Oh man,
it was good. It was good to see you in the Zoom chat this morning, Thierry.
Sorry. Carry on, fellas.
But I was on the road, so this was like kind of as that sort of phasing out was starting to happen. And I called you from Calgary, and I was really nervous because what I knew at the time was that you were a pretty busy, in-demand guy. You had just come back from Nashville, I want to say, like in a couple of years. So you also had this cachet of like having gone to Nashville and been a session player down there and all that stuff. And I was really nervous that you were going to say, yeah, well, I mean, the songs aren't really there, or you would say something, and that I was going to have to so I called bracing myself, and, I had sent you some songs and then called and you said, yeah, I'd love to do it. Like, really? Well, we don't have any money yet. You're like, yeah, whatever. Let's make a record.
Guys, well, I'm so honored that you guys asked me, because you could have asked anybody, and I feel like
I don't think we knew anybody else.
Yeah, I don't care what anybody says about you, Murray. You are not that bad.
You are the that's always been my line, Murray, is I'm not the best bass player, but man, I'm the most available. But no, I mean, I remember that feeling when Joey called him. It was like, yeah, Murray's in. It was like, for real? Really?
Oh man, that Joe, there's a lot for all of us. I think it was an incredible joy to make.
slight detour here, guys, just because I'm curious about this. But Alchemistical Adventures on YouTube is asking, Joey, in a May 9th, 2016 YouTube video, Anderton's Music, they gave you a shout out and played one of your songs. I've searched all over and can't find it. Will you please let me know what song that is?
Oh my God,
that's a while ago.
Not sure.
You know what? Knowing Lee and Danish Pete, it was probably either Made Up Mind or I Am the Fool. A little chunk of those songs, probably. But yeah, May 9th. I don't know. I'm not even sure. I've seen that video, but I can go look it up, and maybe the next time we do a stream, I can answer for you.
So, sorry, guys. I saw May, and in my brain heard Murray's. I thought it was a Murray question, but I got distracted.
That's all right.
Anyways, my bad. So we make this record, and I think we've talked about, now we've done a handful of these, Murray, and we've had a chance to talk about our process from our perspective, both with, we've talked about all the records. We've talked about Whiskey. We've talked about '87, we talked about Let It Lie. I'd be kind of curious, like, and be candid. What was that experience like from your perspective? Because we had no idea what was happening when we went to make that record. We were just like,
I'm not sure I did either. I feel like you guys gave me a bunch of songs, and that I thought, wow, these are all super honest and heartfelt, and I felt very fortunate to get to hear these, and you guys have done some little versions of them. I think you did like some kitchen sessions or something like that too.
Yeah.
And so I'd heard a couple of versions of these songs, and I was like, guys, I don't know if I know what we're going to do with this, but what if we jam all together? At the time, Ryan and we went in and we reworked some of those tunes. I think I remember one, Runaway Train. Wasn't that a ballad at one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just kind of felt like, okay, well, what if we change this up? What if this becomes a little wacky here? I think we even borrowed sections from one song and put it in another, like the solo in Greenhouse, I think, is from something else.
Yeah, we borrowed the instrumental section.
Oh yeah.
From the ballad version of Runaway Train and put it in Firecracker.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We loved that part, but it was like we felt like Firecracker couldn't be anything else, but Runaway Train had the potential to shift gears.
Right. Yeah.
So
we did probably 3 completely different versions of Firecracker before we settled on it. Like there was like almost like a Continuum-esque pop version of that. And I remember you came into the studio and Joey and I were all pumped about it. Like, check out this.
No, it wasn't Firecracker. It was Our Love.
Our Love.
Exactly like something like
No. There was a version of Firecracker too. Yes, I remember we did the John Mayer version, like the Our Love version, which actually I have somewhere and we should post because
I'd love to hear that. I can't remember it.
Yeah, I remember so excited about it, and you were like, "Yeah, man, cool." Like,
and it's probably amazing, but like, just it
wasn't right, and you heard it right away, and that at that stage too, like that was so important for us because we didn't have that perspective.
Well, yeah, I feel like what's really cool about how we came about that record is just it. I hate using the word, but it really morphed organically, and
it did for sure.
I think the cool thing about it too is it never tried to be anything other than you guys in the room. Although we did listen to some cool records as influence, and I think we all had similar influences. I remember we were listening to Sean Colvin's A Few Small Repairs record, and I think we listened to Doyle Bromhall records, that, and we were just
that Greg Gehring.
Oh, Greg Gehring record, yeah.
Because also at the time that we were working on that material, you and I were touring with Steve Bell. We were doing the Bell Trio, and so we often, actually, most of the time I shared a room with Dave Zaglinski because I was like his assistant on that tour.
That's right.
But I remember sharing a room with you and showing you the lyric for Nothing.
Oh yeah,
because I borrowed some ideas from that Greg Gehring tune, "Safe in Your Arms."
Safe within your arms, yeah.
And I loved the idea, like, of if everything goes to shit, at least I had you, and that's kind of where that's what Nothing wound up being about. And I remember playing that for you in the hotel room, and
I remember it.
Yeah, I think there's something there.
It was in like Kitchener Waterloo. We had gone to that crazy acoustic guitar shop that day.
Oh, Folkway Music.
Oh yeah, that's it.
And I bought those tortoiseshell picks.
Yeah. Shh.
Yeah.
But I think with all the records, each record is a little bit of a different, has a different persona and is treated differently. And in that first record, it felt like, I hate to admit it to you guys, but I don't think I really knew what I was doing. because it was just like, I felt like, okay, I don't want to be too, these are great songs and I don't want to, F this up. And I don't, but I don't want to create something that's somewhat generic. I just feel like it's just got to be the best representation of you guys. And I feel like just getting out of the way of the songs was probably the best way to approach it. And I think we did a lot of taking away in that stuff, We
so much,
added by subtracting. And I feel like that's why the record really, spoke to a lot of people. I think, things jump out when they should, and the lyrics especially, and the vocals, and when the guitars, do something, it's like, oh God, what just happened?
Yeah.
I think creatively, I go back to that record a lot to reference that approach. And I listen to it, I don't listen to it very often because because I've played that record a million times, but I listen to it when I want to be reminded of what it's like to use space that way.
Yeah.
And I still listen back to it and go, man, how did we do that at that age? But it wasn't us. It was the fact that you were there sort of holding a mirror in front of a lot of that stuff, going like, check it out, guys. Watch what happens when we take all that noise out and look what's left. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's working.
Still to this day. I mean, I think of right before the lockdown, we were working on guitar parts for Don't Feel Like Crying.
Right.
And, or no. After the Rain, which are two songs that nobody has heard yet because they're out there.
Both great songs, y'all.
And we'd come up with this great sound using the Fairfield electronic shallow water and the ring modulator weirdness, and we came up with this killer sound.
Unreal.
And I had all of these ideas of all these things I wanted to put places, and you were like, "Okay, this is all great. Let me conduct you." And it was like maybe an eighth of the time. and I mean, now that we've made enough records together, like both our own records and then other people's records, that I know that when that I can just innately trust you. And even if I'm not hearing the idea, I trust you to know that whatever it is you're going for is going to be really cool. And I think what I would say about the way that you produce is that, and because when I lived in Toronto, I played on a ton of records being produced by other people, and it was kind of my first time being produced by someone I didn't really know. I even I flew down to LA and made a bunch of records with a bunch of different producers down there too, and had a real experience that I wasn't expecting, because I mainly made records with you, and we have this process that's really organic.
Yeah.
And I was walking into these sessions where people like the producers would have all of these ideas, which is not bad, but a lot of times they were rooted in their own but this is how I do things. This is how I produce.
Yeah.
And so even before you've played anything, I walked into a session one time where somebody was like, "I know that you're some big time quasi famous internet guitar player, but I don't want any guitar playing on this record." I looked at him and it was like, I mean, I don't just shred, you're a pretty musical guy there, Joe. I think I'm a pretty musical guy. And then I started playing, and then, his tune changed right away. But he was, a lot of these people I worked with they had these ulterior motives. And my favorite thing about the way that you produce, and I think that this is something that I take into my own musicality a lot of, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, is the value of waiting for the idea and letting the music kind of percolate. And instead of going in with, you've come to the table with hey, I think maybe we should shuffle this chord change this way, or maybe we should chop a bar or add a bar here or there. You do come to the table with ideas like that, but by and large, you wait for the music to kind of happen and then you react. And I think that's the key, because in making records with you, I don't think that the records we've made with you necessarily sound like Murray Pulver records. They sound like Brothers Landreth records, because you don't come in with this you just come and you just sort of sew up the things that need to be sewn up, and you tidy up the little areas that need to be tidied up, but you let us be who we are first.
Oh.
And I think even after Let It Lie was made and we started getting attention from other people, we got all these people coming forward like, I'd love to produce you, but we're not going to make these clean sounding records. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. It's like, but that's not who we are. Listen
Right.
to the song Cracker and you tell me how a distorted vocal is going to make sense.
Well, I sure appreciate that. I mean, I feel like that's, to me, in my definition of there's many definitions of a producer these days, but I feel like the one that suits me best is, you've got to know the artist. You got to know, you got to get to know them, right? You got to get to know the music, what they're trying to say. And then I want to hear less producer in music and I want to hear more artist in music, right? Because you can listen to the radio or whatever these days, and I hear a lot of producer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And less artist. And you guys, you've got your thing already, you know, and I just want to be there to help sculpt it a bit, you know, where needed, you know, like, or it's just about throwing ideas out. And you know, my famous line is there's no bad ideas, right? And
just bad people.
But it's that willingness to realize you're part of a team in this whole thing, and to how do we make this so we win, right? In the team, and how do we, and whatever winning is, it's like, you know, just how do we get to the finish line and make the best possible product we can.
Yeah. Jen Dirksen, our good pal Jen's got a question here. They're saying, where does this discerning ability come from? So I guess like what
yeah, how do you know? How, like when you're hearing something and you go, that's distraction, that's not like core to the fundamental idea. Where does that come from?
Man, that's a good question. I mean,
is it just instinct? Like,
yeah, you got it. That's what music is to me. Is when I play something, it's instinct. It's not always like, I love playing guitar on sessions and I do a lot on, you know, a lot of country stuff, like, or what's pop country these days or whatever. And I love it. Like, basically we're doing like 4 chords, you know, there's 4 chords in that music these days, but I just love coming to it and just going for my first instinct. And I think you just have to trust instincts, you know, and you have to trust in all the things you've listened to and taken in and what people have said. I've been very lucky to work with some amazing producers in my life, in the sense that, you know, where I was the player and just taking in what people would say. Like, you know, Justin Niebank he's a great Nashville engineer, producer, and he was all about, you know, the right amount of grease and not making things too perfect. You know, he just had a really cool way of sort of approaching music where it just had the guts and the glory, right? And you just kind of take in all these things that musicians you've worked with or played with. You know, I remember Chang on drums, you know, yelling things out to me and things like that he would be sort of teaching me. You just kind of, they stick with you, right? And you just got to trust that all that stuff is sort of just seeped in. And man, I'm not always right, that's for sure. But all I can do is throw out ideas.
You're not always right, but you're almost always right.
Yeah.
I can think of very few occasions when you put an idea forward that I wasn't nuts about at first, that I like that you end up feeling like, yeah, no, maybe no. Like,
name one.
Hey, you guys, do we want to open up? Let's open up for some questions from the audience. Hey,
I wanted to elaborate on one thing before we open it up.
Sure.
I think because in the lessons that I've been doing a lot lately, I've been kind of put in a position where I have to answer that question a little more definitively. Like, how do you know when to make a choice musically? Like, how do you know when to play, you know, this inversion? How do you know when to subdivide a rhythm such and such way? And I think it's like, it mostly comes from in the moment when you're reacting to something and you're making a decision in a split second. It does come from like years and years of listening and bringing in music and knowing innately, like, I think those things that you talk about instinctually, like saying, hey, don't play that part here, play it here.
Yeah.
Wind up being things where, like, because if you do play that part here, it rubs up against this part, and then there's some kind of clash.
Yeah.
And it's like it's kind of hard to technically describe that in the moment, because you're just reacting to things in the moment.
Yeah.
But
but there's so many, it's hard because you play guitar or bass or whatever in a spot that innately feels right, but there's so many other things going on in the music, lyric or whatever, that you've got to capitalize on. And sometimes, just as a guitar player, we play this because it's cool, but it might be cool in the wrong spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And then, man, sometimes you just go, oh shit, that is gold, but it's right over the vocal. Let's move it here where it answers it,
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like, doing enough critical listening, just almost to build up your vocabulary of things, and then just trusting your gut.
Totally.
So whenever you hear something and you go, if you're not immediately like knocked out by something, then it's kind of safe to say that you can trust that as knowing, like, oh, I guess that's not the thing then.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, I know for me, and this is where you're really great as a producer, I have an idea. Like, I'm talking about producers that are bringing their ulterior motives to the table. I do this all the time. I want to do this. I want to harmonize it this way. I want to stack vocals this way. I want to build the guitar part this way. And you go, yeah, that's great. Except for listen to what's happening in the lead vocal, or listen to what the bass is doing. And I'll go, yeah, right. That's not going to work. You know what I mean?
Taking the fun out.
I mean, yeah, we laugh about it, but it's all like, and that's what I mean. Like, working with you is like, it's so rarely are you wrong, just because I think you just trust that intuition.
That's all you can do. You
just have the experience. So it all adds up. I was just going to say, Dave, we should look at that question. Pierre says, hi guys. Pierre's a good friend of ours from here in Winnipeg. I'm definitely feeling the love among you, and it's a beautiful thing. I agree. Murray, how do you separate producer role from friendship when working with the Bros and Joey's projects? Good question.
That is a good question.
I don't know. Do we have to?
I don't feel like you do. Like, I don't ever feel, you know what, with anybody that I'm working with, I feel like we establish relationships, and it's about trust between everyone. And so I feel like if you have a true friend, like a trust there, that I don't ever worry about, someone's ego or feelings, because I know that I don't approach things like in a sense where I'm going to offend anybody. I don't think.
No.
But I feel like we're all in this together, kind of thing, and it's when you're working on a song with an artist, it's about we're doing this together, and we're not like, I don't feel like I'm the producer, so it's my way or the highway. It's like, if you're not happy, I'm going to try and find ways to make this work where we both love it, right? And it's not. I don't feel like there's any divide or anything separate between producer or friendship. I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that, because I've never been in a situation where I feel like, oh man.
Well, I have lots of thoughts on this.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I think I've been in so many different positions, either as like a side person or a band leader or a boss. And and there definitely are times when, like, you have to approach roles a little differently and recognize that you have a position of power over someone potentially, and you have to respect that, or that you need to defer to somebody, when you're the side person and that's the artist. But like, I think for our role, we really do meet as peers. And I think we also have a tremendous amount of respect for each other.
Right.
And we've always met at that place with a lot of respect. There's always been a lot of understanding, a lot of empathy for each other. And that's allowed us to be pretty free and creative in that space, because there's just like, there's this base level of like real, just like fundamental respect. And that's like, that is the non-starter. And then we move from there.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. And then we also all know what we're working towards too, and it's all for the greater good. And so you approach it in that sense, and you kind of, take the steps necessary. And yeah, I've never felt that those things have to be separate.
Yeah, I certainly not with this relationship. Chris just bought us all coffees. Bless your heart, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Joey, you got a question there?
Hey?
Is there a question you wanted me to grab?
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions we missed.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were going to say something though, Joe? I thought, or am I just making things up?
No, I wasn't going to say anything.
Okay. Here's one.
Anders
asks,
when do you choir on Bros Landreth? Are the guys singing instantly? I'm not sure I understand that question.
So when we're doing BGs, are we singing together or are we singing separately?
Yeah. Do you want to answer that, Dave?
Yeah. No, we're not singing together. Joey and Murray have got one of the most incredible vocal producer relationships that I've ever seen. They, with all the records that we've worked on, at some point when we're ready to start stacking vocals, Joey and Murray do this little voodoo dance, and they get into this like crazy intense little space where Joey goes and sits in the vocal booth, and they rip through vocals at a speed that would make your head spin. And Joey stacks them and Murray to make sure that Joey's singing in tune, and it happens blisteringly fast. And then I come in and usually sing one or two parts, usually just one. So Joey sings a guide vocal, and then I go and replace some of them. I sing to his vocals, or he just sort of lays out the part. And that's just how that is how we've sort of fallen into doing it. It works really well for us. It's pretty fast. It's pretty inspiring to watch. Like I get so excited for vocal days because I just sit back and watch these songs just sort of go.
It's one of my favorite things to do with you guys is just like, Joey can, sing anything. And, the ideas just keep going back and forth, and it'd be, oh, what if we did that? Oh, then what if we did that? Oh my God. It's like this, it's like it's a festival.
I've done over the last couple of years, I've done so much vocal arranging on my own. And I think I have a way that I like to approach things. But my favorite thing about working with Murray, working with you, Murray, is that you like, we definitely come from sort of different angles. And then when we sort of bash our ideas together, is like, I'll come up with a part and you go, oh, I don't know if that's it, but what if you did something here? And then, then I build the chord on top of the placement or the melody that you sing. And then it is truly a collaboration, and it's super fun.
Oh man.
It's like, we've been like before the lockdown, we got pretty close on a couple of songs, and there was a couple of days where Murray was like, man, I think we get one more part down on there, and I think we're singing.
Yeah, I just can't wait.
Fucking guitars out of the way so we can just get to build.
Screw the guitars, sorry man, but it's just so fun because it really does take the songs in places that you maybe didn't think they would go, and it really it's just such a fun process, and without it getting out of hand. I don't feel like we've gotten out of hand yet.
Not yet.
Oh, we've had moments. We've been close.
Dave's man. You are.
I've fired some pretty adventurous parts.
The moderator, yeah, you have, yeah.
The parts that get fired, it's never like, oh man, that one cluster that we built on that thing, man, I just wish that was there. It's always like when you come in and you go, guys, I don't know if that's the thing, and then we usually take a step back and go, yeah.
He's just in check.
Yeah.
Kelly says, I'm still hoping we can afford to hire Murray to produce some of our music someday.
Kelly Toll, man, how's it going, Kelly? I was with Kelly out in Portage la Prairie.
Get out of town.
In Pan Alley.
We're still hoping that we can afford to one day pay Murray what he's worth.
Yeah, right.
Sean's got one. Sean Watkins, our dear buddy Sean, out on the West Coast. Thanks, Murray, how do you know the song is done?
Another good. See, it's a stumper again.
When you go to stick the fork in it and it goes in with very little resistance, that's when you know that you can get the song out of the water and begin mashing.
That's good. Good answer. Yeah, I think when we all look around the room and we go, I think, do you like it? Yeah, I like it. I feel like if we're all feeling, that we're loving it, other people are going to love it.
Come to think of it, I don't know that we've ever had to ask that question. I can't actually think of a definitive moment when we've been like, is this done? It just kind of always is like, we kind of look at each other like,
okay,
hey, what's next?
Yeah.
Like,
there is often a bit of a metric, and it's almost always, okay, guys, I think I have one last idea.
That's true.
And then I'll start to lay the part down, and you'll and it's either me, but mostly it's usually Murray who will go, yeah, so what do you think of that? And usually that's Murray Pulver for, yeah, we're done. And then I usually go, yeah, you're right, Mur. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of always, you always go the one step further and you go, maybe not.
It's like if it's a 4-part harmony, I'll go, okay, well, there's one more thing we could add to this, and I'll put it on, and you'll go, yeah, what do you think of
that? Yeah. Or that's when Dave comes in and goes, screw that harmony. Yeah, forget it.
I don't know, guys. I don't know.
Hey, we got a question from Ivan, who I haven't seen in years and years. Ivan, nice to see you, man.
Yeah,
nice to see Ivan. Comments. Ivan also grew up with us in Winnipeg, and I played in his band a couple of times.
For a long time, I introduced the song Made Up Mind by telling a story about my friend sending me a message asking if I was aware that we had ripped off a John Mayer song. Ivan is the person who sent me. Said, hey, and then he's the guy, like in the story, I've told this story on stage like hundreds of times, and in the story he sent me a version of I Don't Trust Myself with Loving You and Made Up Mind mashed together, and I think you only had to like adjust the time of one ever so slightly, and then anyway, so anybody who's wondering, Ivan is the guy who made that magic come to life.
So Ivan's asking, first of all, love right back to you, Ivan. Since anything can be done on a record, do you limit your recording possibilities in order to replicate it with a live performance?
No, we never have.
No.
I think we just, because the live thing and the record thing, they exist on sort of different planes. The album is what the album is, and then we'll like, obviously, like, I mean, just talking about background vocals, there's usually more background vocals than we can cover live. So we'll do like, we'll simplify the parts so that it's just triadic, instead of 4 or 5 part, whatever, But yeah, we let those two things sort of exist separately.
Yeah, it's not something we're at all thinking about when we make Bros records, thankfully.
Yeah.
I know I've been in projects where like where you just, like, as you guys were talking about with Doc Walker, where it's like you get up on stage and you play the record down verbatim, note for note, and everybody's responsible for catching as many of those parts and vocals and stuff. Yeah. But like when we go to play stuff with the Bros, as anybody who's been to our shows would recognize, like we do stuff however we want.
Yeah.
There's no rules.
Well, yeah. To me, that's the excitement of seeing a band live. That it's not exactly the same. I'd be a little, disappointed. If it was exactly the same, I'd go listen to the record then.
Yeah, totally. Pierre's got another one. We're gonna take a left turn here, Murray.
Oh man. Oh yes. We did lose our dog Georgia in May. Yeah, and it was devastating because it came by surprise. But thanks for that. But we do have 2 new dogs and 2 golden retrievers. They're 10 weeks old, and they are absolute joy, but also absolute mayhem. And, Todd and Poppy are their names. And,
I didn't know their names. That's so cute.
Oh, bless them.
Yeah, they're actually red Goldens. So Todd actually means, like, the golden retriever is a Scottish breed, and Todd Yeah, the Scottish meaning of Todd apparently is red fox.
There you go.
Yeah, so Todd and Poppy. And I think they're out right now, actually, on an adventure. So otherwise, I'd show them here.
Who's playing shakers on the new album? And was the shaker of choice an egg?
This is Mike.
Love you, Mike. So, all seriousness, the person who, generally speaking, does play most of the percussion on the record is Paul Yee, our engineer, and he is a beast.
Yeah.
I actually had the great pleasure of engineering a percussion session for him while he was playing. I got to engineer.
Oh yeah,
it was fucking crazy. Like Paul will sit down and one take every single, like, okay, I'm gonna do a shaker track. Okay, now I'm gonna do a guiro or guiro, however you say that. Now I'm gonna do tambos, left, right, center. Literally, just like, we'll decide where they go. We hit record, and it's like the first time he plays it, I think we had to punch in 2 things. It was insane. We got all the percussion done for the Lowell George record in one session in like a 4.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Well, I think with something, same thing. It was just, we didn't even talk about it. Like, there was no discussion. It was just like, okay, Paul, we're done. I think we're done with the record. He's like, okay. And then he went and did a day's worth of.
Yeah.
And then,
you don't even have to ask him.
Yeah, we didn't change anything. We didn't change a single thing.
Exactly what happened on Whiskey, and that's why if anybody wants to know, in the credits, he's credited as Paul Tambo Magic Yee.
That's what he is.
That's what he is, Tambo Magic.
The shaker or choice of an egg, I'm not sure. He uses all the fruits. And,
He's
got a gourd, you know.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure an egg is not a fruit.
Oh yeah, sorry.
The Canadian food guide.
Protein.
Egg.
It's known as the chicken butt apple.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to pick this one because typically we don't get a lot of love over on the Twitter action, and the Rev 14. Thank you for your question. Says, in the studio, what do you find is the most repeated rule / principle that you follow?
Oh man, yeah. Is there one?
I think it's
less is more, maybe.
What's that?
Maybe we come back to like, and I've been learning this lesson musically since I was a little kid, but less is more, I think, is something that constantly comes up.
Yeah, I also think, and I feel like trust too is like trusting in what everybody does and their instinct, and before you start making any rules, you know.
Yeah, I can't tell you like how many times I've come to the table with an idea and Dave and Murray have watched me, especially now since being in the studio, watch me frantically go back and forth between the booth, changing microphones around, only to find that a part just isn't working. But I think I would add to that, like we'll try anything. Yeah, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We're also not afraid to say, hey man, sorry you spent 20 minutes setting up that mic configuration, but it's not happening.
Yeah. Sorry, man.
Yeah, but there's try everything. Less is more. Trust. That's the road.
Cool. Hey, great question, the Rev. Thanks for chiming in.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I feel like a schmuck. I didn't mean to say that we don't get a lot of love from Twitter. We do. We've been experimenting with these live streams and they don't have the same sort of pickup over there. So I was just excited to see somebody listening over on Twitter. Just so you know, I love everyone. Any more questions, folks? Feel free to throw them in the comments here. I think we'll probably do a couple more, and then I'm gonna go and spend the afternoon hanging out with my kiddo. It's his last day of being 0 years old. It's his birthday.
Birthday tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh my.
Birthday.
Happy birthday, nephew.
Yeah, happy birthday, Finn. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. We're excited. Roberta's going to build him. Is going to bake him a sugar-free cake, but apparently they're still pretty delicious.
Nice. Hey, we got our dear buddy Mike Slaughter in the house. Mike Slaughter is a very, very good friend to the band and to me personally, from Ashington, England, which is up near Newcastle, for those who don't know. He says, all the best for 2021 from Ashington. Any chance you can stick Mr. Pulver in the van for the next UK tour? He's great crack, and I would love it. There is a chance that we can chuck Mr. Pulver in the van. We might be talking about a little special little thing at some point.
Whoa.
Don't know about 2021 though. I don't think we'll be on the road in 2021, to be honest. But certainly 2022.
Yes. Well, that'd be fun.
Corey Smith says,
Corey.
I noticed that Trevor Hanford and Corey Smith were kissing back and forth, and it was warming my heart. How
Corey
cool!
was also in my band Tin Pan Alley and the Hot Tamales. Portage the Prairie's own Corey Smith.
Pretty special.
Hey, baby.
Yeah, he's in Calgary now.
How cool is it that Winnipeg has a musical family thing where people enjoy working with each other instead of against each other? I got to say, this is probably my favorite thing about being a part of the Winnipeg music scene, is that this community is so supportive and so rarely competitive. Like it really is kind of an oddity as far as music scenes go. It's really a beautiful thing, and I'm very proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. We got a little techie question here. Hey, when recording guitars, to record wet and not be concerned about the amount of effects present, i.e. too much reverb. So I think, Mark, you're asking, do we separate wet effects? Not often. Most of the time, if we have delays on the guitars, they're going into the amp and coming out of the amp. We will occasionally add things in post, but it's most of the time we're committing to things on the fly. The only time that we really are like printing effects would be when we're recording. Paul's got a really beautiful plate reverb, so we'll print that. But a lot of times we print the plate afterward. Like we'll run it as an insert, but it's not actually being printed until we can, because he's only got the one. So he'll go in and actually after the fact and go and print the reverbs. We'll decide on what they're going to be. But most of the time, the reverb from the amp is going in onto the tape, onto the digital tape, of course. The delays are as well.
Yeah, I feel like that stuff. It's when the player's inspired by a certain sound or delay or verb or whatever, you may as well go with it because it's influencing the rest, And I don't know. I like printing it. Having the player use their delay.
I think too, like in a bigger sense, when we're making records, we are not perfectionists in that, like, we're thinking about, like, let's leave all the options open so that we can then make this the best thing that it's possibly going to be. I think we've always approached making records with the mindset of, like, let's capture a moment. Let's capture, like, a seed of inspiration, explore that. And, like, the song or the record that comes out of it is just that. It's like, here's this story that unfolded this time in our lives.
Exactly, yeah.
So part of that is being like,
yeah, sorry, Dave, to cut you off. For that reason, we don't often record DI'd guitars, like for reamping purposes. We generally commit to things in the moment. We're not looking to really modify things a ton afterward. But I also think, like, and maybe you guys might disagree or have another idea, but I don't think that there's often guitar parts that take such a front seat to the song that it really needs a lot of things. Like most of the time, the parts, with the exception of maybe a fill track or a solo track, where the guitar part is the main focus. It's generally the lead vocal and the lyric,
right?
And then all the guitar stuff is just sort of supportive. So, yeah.
I got a question going back here that I had meant to click on earlier, but it just didn't sort of make sense when it came up. But this is from Peter Underhill, who I feel terrible. We did a Patreon hang with Joey today, really like guitar centric, production centric Patreon hang for patrons, and Peter got stuck in the waiting room.
Oh,
I feel really bad about it.
Yeah, right. Sorry, Peter.
Oh no.
today's just been marred by tech issues. But Peter's asked, and he's asked before, can you describe the sound of the new album? I think, Murray, we've tried to do this in previous chats, but I'd really love to know your perspective on these new songs. People have been asking. I think they're not quite as excited as we are, but pretty excited to hear this new record.
What I noticed right away was that you guys had been writing a lot more like acoustic guitar based, and I find like there's a bit more of an acoustic presence on this record, but there's also all these unique, really cool, affected kind of guitar things that Joey's done that are really like ingenious in a sense, and really inventive, mixed in with these sort of more acoustic based kind of tunes. I mean, there's almost two sides to it, it seems to me, and we're working on marrying the two. But I do, I feel like, and maybe you guys would disagree, but I feel like they're a bit more acoustic based.
So interesting. So interesting. I wouldn't say that I disagree, but I think the thing that has caught my ear the most has been the flip side to that, which has been all this like really interesting tonal exploration that Joey's been doing. You've been doing all this like really wacky, wild, sort of guitar synth, almost like guitar synth stuff, where you're creating these like,
you don't even know it's guitar.
No, you have no idea, and it just ends up sort of helping to create these moods and tension and release. And some of it sounds like piano, some of it sounds like synth, but so it's so cool to me, Murray, that you hear sort of the foundation of those tunes as like acoustic.
I do, yeah. Like, I mean, there's some tunes where you've gone, beyond, but I feel like a core. I would say the majority of the tunes are kind of come from that organic acoustic-y place, and it's I don't know, but I do feel like in lyrics and storytelling and songwriting, I feel like these are all very personal songs, and really I hope we can capture, I hope that's reflected in the production, and that people will really sort of think what they want to think with these songs, like
for sure.
I think they're going to mean different things to different people, and I that's exciting to me, and to be honest, like sometimes this is maybe a bad thing to admit, but sometimes I don't even understand what certain songs are about, but they give me a feeling, and I'll be like completely honest, like I sometimes don't get it until the end, but I think sometimes I've done a decent job of capturing what it should be. And it's a bit of a subliminal thing, maybe.
That's that intuition thing you're talking about, though. It's like, if we're doing our job as songwriters, then that should be in there. That like that intent should be, the melody and the chords should be telling that story too. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I was just gonna speak to that too. Like, I think there's an emotional communication that happens in songwriting that can totally transcend the story. Like, I mean, I think of something like Greenhouse, where it means something very specific to Dave and I,
right?
But it has gone on to mean completely different. Like, we have, I've played that for people who are on their deathbed, and then I've played that for people as they're walking down the aisle, and it's like it doesn't matter what my version of the story is. Just it winds up taking its own life. Sorry,
taking a life of its own.
Takes on a life of its own, emotionally, totally apart from my own sort of preconceived notion. And I think the fact that you're able to, like, I mean, I think, I mean, the way that some of these tunes are turning out, yes to that is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, and that happens with many artists. Sometimes I just go, oh man, like there's something pretty, you get wrapped up in the process sometimes, and I know there's something, by the way, and maybe I try and sometimes ask what the song is about, but sometimes I like not asking and just kind of figuring it out as we go.
Yeah.
And that seems like a strange thing, but I feel like these songs mean a lot to you guys, and I think in turn will really make the listeners feel something, and and different things for different people. But that's the thing I feel like the most excited about with this record, is that I feel like lyrically these are coming from interesting, really.
I think in terms of the writing, this is some of my favorite writing that we've done.
Yeah.
And that specifically, Joe, I think like there are songs on this record that are some of my favorite that you've ever written.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a depth to this stuff that I'm really excited to let people interact with, because I think there's some really beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our friend Katie Hurt, fantastic artist from the UK. So when is the next album coming out? We're at the mercy of this pandemic, unfortunately. So I have no idea, but we are so anxious to get working on it. The moment it's safe to, we will be back in the studio. We are up against a bit of a timeline because Joey's got a baby coming in March, so he's gonna have his hands full. But we have nothing else to do. Once it's safe to get back in the studio, this is the only thing that we have to be doing, because we're not going to be touring till probably 2022 at this point. Maybe a few more questions, guys. Hey.
Yeah.
Hi, Alexa's in the house. Hi, Alexa.
Oh man. Congrats on the New Year's gig the other night, Alexa.
Oh, beast.
Alexa,
my favorite. She's my favorite writer, my favorite singer, my favorite performer. She is an inspiration. She was also in my very first band.
Yeah,
and we wrote "Let It Lie" together, the song, and Nothing. And she has gone on to write some of the most meaningful music that I have heard.
Alexa has rescued so many of our songs.
Go check it out, Begonia.
Yeah, check out Begonia.
It's called Begonia.
Phenomenal singer, communicator.
You Just Keep Letting Me Down, which was off of 87. That's Alexa wrote the bridge, which saved that song from the trash can. We were going to turf it until Alexa fixed it for us, which Alexa does all the time. There's another one here. Oh, geez, sorry. I like this question just because we're all dads now. But will you guide your kids to music or let them track their own way?
I could answer that first because my kids are older.
Yeah.
Music's always been around the house, and we gave there's tons of instruments, and gave them piano lessons, etc. And my kids are both very musical, but they just don't have the same passion for it, and so I think I did the best in sort of like, they are appreciators and lovers of music, but they're not musicians. They just don't want any part of it. That's just not who they are. So it's kind of interesting, like, because sometimes you have paint this picture in your head of what it's going to be like and what they're going to, and for some people that's the way they go. But my kids definitely don't want anything to do with music. Although I think my daughter could be quite a producer. She kind of schools me and quite often as to what works and what doesn't. And yeah, like, I give a quick example. I was working with this song, and she kind of, this is about 5 years ago. I bring her to the studio, and I said, I can't seem to get a handle on this song. The artist doesn't like it. It's a female artist, probably early 20s. And my daughter goes, let's hear it. And she goes, oh, you should probably mute the hi-hats and take out the acoustic guitar. And I was like, he goes, Yeah, that's really Sarah Bareilles, like 2014. It should be more like, Sarah Bareilles. This is 2017. Of course, there's no hats, no acoustic guitars, and I play it for the artist, and she loves it. I'm just like, oh, there you go. She's got a producer mind, but
I love that.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
she's a listener, that's for sure. Anyway, I blabbed on.
Yeah, I think I'm in it. Like, I definitely like will provide lots of opportunity to interact with music, but I would never force it on him because if Finn wants to make music, absolutely, I'll be happy to support him however he wants. But if he wants to be a truck driver, which is kind of right now what he's sort of like, because he's into trucks and mighty machines. All the parents in the house, if you know what I'm talking about, mighty machines.
Mighty machines. I'm talking mighty machines.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll let him find his own way. Whatever he wants to be into will be the thing that I love. My new hobby, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely the same. I mean, my kid, whoever they are when they get here, if they want to play guitar or organ, or that's pretty much all I play. Those two instruments. They have all the gear they could ever need.
Right. Opportunities there.
But yeah, I mean, I think because I felt very, very supported. Like I just think about my mom kind of having that talk. Like, if you want to be a musician, absolutely, you can do that. And here's what, she gave me some really great advice. I can't remember exactly how, but she sort of said, she gave me a piece of advice that I kept with me forever. And it was like, don't be afraid to have a backup plan. Like, if you don't have enough gigs, go work at McDonald's. It's fine, And I did that a number of times in my life. But it was never like, and it never felt like it was forced on me. And I definitely want to do that for my kid too. If you want to play guitar or keys or drums or whatever, yeah, absolutely. I can help out with that. If you want to play soccer or hockey or football, sorry, Europe, you want to play some sort of sport. I don't know anything about it, but you better believe I'm going to Google the shit out of where to buy ice skates.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, you'll just provide whatever they sort of get interested in,
Yeah. Maybe on that note, guys, that's a perfect segue because I am dying to actually go and spend some quality time with my little wee one. Yeah. So maybe we'll wrap this thing up. Yeah. I want to say thank you, Murray.
Thank you, guys. That was super fun.
Not just doing this little hangout, but for being a part of our sort of musical story this whole time. You've been right from the very first step. You've been a part of this adventure, and you're so instrumental in our sound and who we are as a band and as people. So,
man, honored, guys.
The other thing I was going to say is, for anybody who's out there who's not hip to it, we do this thing on Patreon. If you don't know about it, we have a Patreon page, patreon.com/broslandreth. There should be a link down there somewhere.
It is there.
If you're looking for ways to support the band, and that is it right now. We wait to go back to work when this pandemic lifts, but for now, that's where we're hanging out. And we do these things kind of weekly, hey Joe?
Yeah, generally speaking, we do them on Saturdays at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Open parentheses GMT -6 for those of you who are overseas. I think we're gonna kind of try to continue on with the theme of having some guests. We're not sure exactly who or when it's gonna be, but we're kind of working it out as we go. So
I'll come back, guys. Honestly, I'll come back.
Yeah. So he's legally changing his last name to Landreth, and Mur, thanks so much. I mean, I can only echo what Dave said, but it's been an absolute joy to spend all this time with you over these years, and I'm just so glad that we got to share some of the story today with these folks. It's been really, really fun.
Oh, guys, the feeling is mutual, and I am honored to be here, not just today, but in in your whole musical journey, and I can't wait to make more with you guys soon.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I can't wait for people to hear it. You're all gonna love it.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Can't wait to get you guys back in this room with
This space, I know.
It misses you.
I'm pretty sick in this room right now, I must say.
Yeah. Hey man, you got to bring that Mustang bass.
Oh yeah.
When we can some short scale bass action.
Oh yeah. Love it.
Oh yeah.
The bass that plays like a guitar.
I knew you'd say something about it.
I love them too, Mary. I swear to God. Okay, listen, everybody. Happy New Year. Have a great weekend. We look forward to catching up with you soon.
Yeah.
Take care of yourselves. Be kind. And we'll chat soon. Love you guys.
Love you both.
Dude, thanks, guys. It was fun.
Bye, guys.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.